Ah, the American Wild West. Crime, robbery, and complete lawlessness. Woo, baby! Now, what if I told you that Hollywood doesn't really strive for historical accuracy? Oh, I know, tough talk for a fella with a small cock, but hear me out. The American Wild West wasn't even that wild. And actually, as a matter of fact, you can find much wilder places in modern day America, like let's say Chicago. And even worse, there are much more lesser known wilder wests of the world. Let's talk about them. Oh yeah, hit double digits. If that doesn't deserve a like and subscribe, I really don't know what does. The Australian Wild West. Or East. West. Now, it's actually a little insulting to even compare the incredible Australian Wild West to the boring American Wild West. In terms of wildness, I mean, 99 wildness. Australia back then was basically just comprised of prisoners who were given an ultimatum between death or backbreaking labor at an isolated penal colony across the entire world. And what did USA have? Tax evaders? Ooh, scary. So just in case you didn't quite get the memo, Australia was a little bit of a shithole. Between the incredibly harsh, unforgiving lands and the numerous animals and insects that could pretty much kill you as they please, it wasn't the most favorable of living environments. Zero marketing. Now kids, what would entice someone to travel to such a shithole? Hot local convicts? Maybe, but we're talking the masses here. No. It's gold, and Australia had a lot of it. 99 gold. The Australian gold rushes, which started in 1851, brought around 500,000 people from all corners of the world. And those new people brought new ideas and more chaos. And that chaos came in the form of freedoms.
Let's get rich, boys. Yeah.
Well, actually, first you're gonna have to pay this expensive gold license. Sorry, it's the law.
What? That's outrageous. This is taxation without representation.
Yeah.
The miners felt that taxation without representation feeling the Americans felt during the American Revolution. And like the Americans, they revolted in what I like to call the mini-American Revolution, or known in Australia as the Eureka Rebellion. The miners took up arms and stood their ground for a little while, until they got severely squashed by the colonial troops. Now, what's your take on this? Do you think that Australia should keep their British watermarked flag, or actually cherish their rich and wild history by taking up the Eureka flag? Let me know down in the comments. Anyways, that wasn't even close to being the wildest part of the Australian Wild West. No, for that, you just need to look at the Bushes, and specifically what language they spoke. The Bushes spoke English with a particular Irish accent, because you see, when the British colonized Australia, they brought their problems with them. The Irish. The discrimination of Irish people in Australia led to many Irishmen constantly having problems with the law. Now, these men had two choices: backbreaking labor, or make use of how wild the place truly was and jump into the bushes. A lot of men chose the bushes. These men came to be known as bush rangers. Now, bush rangers came in all shapes and sizes, from absolute psychopathic freaks like John Lynch who snuck up behind people and hacked them with tomahawks, to complete legends like Ned Kelly, a man who would rob banks just to burn down the mortgages. A true hero, I tell ya. Oh yeah, not to mention he also basically inspired Iron Man and built his own armor. Trust me, if you ever on the off chance want to piss off an Australian, just call Ned Kelly a cowboy. And when's the next Emu War? Those two will do the trick. Anyways, these bush rangers became folk heroes for the Australian people because they symbolized the everlasting fight against an unjust and discriminatory system. Wow, you'll have to see it. A wholesome Wild West. The Canadian Wild West. Now, Canada's Wild West was extremely volatile and only gets an 88 overall because, holistically speaking, it evens itself out. You see, it was either absolute fucking carnage, chaos, hell on earth like during the Fraser River Gold Rush, 99 degeneracy, or while extremely tame, well-mannered, and sophisticated like during the Klondike Gold Rush, 99 sophistication. Now, you might be saying, well, how does that work? And to that, I say Mounties and authority. You see, the Mountie were a police force created by the Canadian government to tame the extremely vast and wild new frontier, and maybe not repeat the same mistakes seen in the American Wild West. Plus, any slither of violence or conflict could give American expansionists some ideas of connecting, if you know what I mean. With this, the Mountie were sent on a mission to install order. But what if I told you that the damage was already done? You see, the Fraser River Gold Rush started in 1858, whereas the Mountie were finally created in the 1870s. And a lot can happen during such a period of time. Let's talk about it. So in 1858, around 30,000 miners, mostly from the now gold-depleted California, migrated to the north into what is now modern-day British Columbia for two purposes: to get rich and die trying. But there was one little problem. You see, back then, this region was not yet British Columbia, province of Canada, but New Caledonia, a land that the British lay claim to under the Hudson's Bay Company, governed by Sir James Douglas of only around 200 employees and over 50,000 indigenous peoples. Now kids, what happens when a dipshit gold-thirsty miner meets an extremely proud and pissed off native person? The exchange of gifts? The making of cupcakes? No. War. The Fraser Canyon War, to grossly oversimplify, resulted in a pretty much total American Californian win and a crippling local indigenous loss, mostly due to smallpox. It's estimated that around 50 all the way to 75% of the local indigenous population died, effectively wiping out the resistance in that region. When Governor Sir James Douglas finally grasped the entire situation, he was mortified. Oh my. For the cost of life and what this could mean for the British. I could only imagine his letter to London went something like, "They're gonna connect." Connect what exactly? New Caledonians, I tell you. So fucking weird. Oh. During the same exact year, New Caledonia became a colony and was named British Columbia. Emphasis on the British. Zero connection. Nice play, Britain. Long story short, like literally every gold rush, the miners fucked off when the gold eventually ran out within 4 years. But hey, at least most of the miners finished with gold by their side. They were both at the bottom of the Fraser River. Damn, that was grim stuff. But time to cheer up with the Klondike Gold Rush. Literally the polar opposite of the shit show that was the Fraser River Gold Rush. Wait a second. That's better. The Klondike Gold Rush of 1896 to 1899 is what all gold rush should aspire to be. Men sang in unison as their pickaxe hit the rock, and people could be seen sleeping in the same bunk with their gold laying together on the floor. Okay, I'm just kidding, but compared to other gold rushes, thanks to the Mountie, this one looked like a bouncy castle. The Brazilian wild northeast and south and west. Okay. Brazil's fucking wild, man. Now, when talking about Brazil and wildness, I found it quite tough to truly pinpoint the region when in all honesty, it's the whole fucking place. 99 Brazil. But thanks to Captain Lampião, which in Portuguese just means lantern or oil lamp, I'ma just call him Oil Lamp, nothing was more wild than Brazil's isolated, harsh, desert-like northeast. Now, unlike the other lesser-known Wild Wests we've talked about, this one was literally during the 20th century, around the 1920s and the 1930s. 99 Brazil again. So the Cangaço were basically a combination of bushrangers and cowboys with a Brazilian twist. Actually, make that a massive Brazilian twist. The Cangaço were absolutely dripping out of this world. Like, I swear, I've never seen anything like it. It's insane. Look at this. But all jokes aside, the 99 attire actually served a vital role to the Cangaço's survival. You see, as they were being constantly hunted down by Brazilian authorities, they had to rely upon the villagers for aid and survival. Whether that be in the forms of shelter, food, information, or just money, the Cangaço needed the poor. And in order to more easily gain that precious aid, the Cangaço based their business off a Robin Hood type way. A system where they would essentially steal from the rich and, well, try not to kill the poor while doing it. 56 Generosity. Oil Lamp, the great captain of the Cangaço, went into banditry at the age of 21 when his parents were both killed by corrupt police. He was followed by 3 of his brothers and started a successful resistance. And by successful resistance, I mean the man literally roamed and dominated almost all of the northeastern backlands with his army of around 100 bandits for a good 15 or so years, battling with state armies and ransoming local mafia political bosses. And all this with his partner in crime, Maria Bonita, by his side. Which literally just means beautiful Maria. A fitting name, the stat man agrees, 99 Bonita. These two were basically the Brazilian Bonnie and Clyde, more brutal and more romantic. So yeah, the Brazilian Bonnie and Clyde. Here's a video of them. Aren't they cute? Wait, Maria, please don't point that at me. Thanks, Maria. But the banditry couldn't go on forever, and in 1938, literally just a year before the Second World War, he was snitched on by one of his supporters and ambushed at one of his hideouts. The death of Oil Lamp and Bonita effectively ended the Cangaço era. Not really. Oil Lamp basically became the Jesse James of Brazil and still lives on in the history books. Anyways, these characters are all very cool and all, but thank God these places aren't that wild anymore. Oops. Most of these places.